Alright, what's up guys? Andrew here again. Welcome back to a new video. You guys know that I like to make predictions on seasons that come up, and I may or may not be super good at it, I may or may not be really bad at it, but now we're going to look at the MLS. We're going to start off with the East today, move on to the West tomorrow. You guys know how it works, let's jump right into it. At the bottom of the Eastern Conference, I have Orlando City. They've got a really nice new stadium, and Kaká's still playing in the middle. The signings they've brought in have been okay. Donny Toya will shore up the outside back spot along with Jonathan Spector. Will Johnson's going to make the center midfield really, really strong. They brought in Josh Saunders for whatever reason. That trash can will never be good and will never ever be better than Joe Bendik. But the major reason I have them in last place is because of their major losses in Kevin Molino and Breck Shea. A lot of people think Breck Shea was underperforming, but I think he really could have had a breakout year this year. But the main focus is Kevin Molino. He was such a major producer for this team last year with 11 goals and 8 assists. But taking him out of the picture puts a lot of pressure on Garcia to be that creator in the midfield. And at 32, I just don't know if it's going to come off for him. Second to the bottom, I have Philadelphia Union. And no, this isn't because I just hate them. They've only really made one solid signing in Wijnaldum, and even that's questionable if we don't know how well he's actually going to do. Major loss in Josh Yarrow going down, and Gooch is not going to be a solid replacement for him. He'll do a job, but he's just going to get burned by some of the faster forwards in the league this year. Keegan Rosenberry and Andre Blake are obviously two bright spots in this defensive line, but going forward with CJ Sapong, who goes months without even having a shot on goal, that's not going to win you games. This team is really young at really important positions. We already talked about in my last video how outside back is a super important position in the MLS, and they've got two really young guys playing there. Center defensive mid is always an important spot, and they got one or two young / new players who will be in there too. And we all know that Bedoya is not a DP caliber player. This team could have all the chips fall into place, or they could just crash and burn, and I'm going to go with the latter on this one. Coming up next is New England. Coming off of a report I've read, they're playing Agudelo as a 10. I don't think so. I'm excited to watch Cropper in goal because I've seen bits of him at U.S. youth national team level. I think he can be really, really good. And we all know Kai Kamara can play. But with 3 young center backs to choose from and the new goalkeeper in there, it's going to be tough for them to keep the ball out of the net often. And with that, I don't think they're going to score enough goals on the other side with Agudelo setting up Kamara. I just don't think that the numbers are going to work out, and I think that they're going to end up falling rather than rising. Next up is Chicago. They're finally not last. Chicago have had by far the best offseason of any team in this league this year. They brought in Dax and Juninho to solidify that center mid spot. We still miss you, Dax. Please come back. They've had rises in players like Akam, Delu, and Solignac, and they brought in Nikolic, who looks to be like a super signing for them. Kappelhoff and Campbell were good last year for them. Brandon Vincent showed a lot of promise, and the only real question mark I have for them is the loss of Sean Johnson. So they brought in Bava to replace Lamson, Johnson, whoever was going to play there last year, and he seems to be a really good fit, but so did Jaime Pinedo in LA, so it'll be interesting to see if a player like that will be able to adapt to this league. Following them is Montreal. They're bringing back the starting 11 that made them far into the playoffs last year, which is great. That's solid for them, especially Ignacio Piatti. That's the player they needed to bring back, and they did. They held on to him. He didn't lose him in the transfer window. That's awesome. But anything after that is a question. We all know that a starting 11 gets you wins, but a deep, deep core will get you a championship. And that seems to be what they're lacking right now. They got rid of Harry Shipp. They got rid of Drogba. So that bench is looking thinner and thinner. When it gets late into the season for the playoff push, they're going to have a lot of dead legs, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can pick up some points. Next up, I have Atlanta, the biggest question mark in the league. On paper, wow, they look phenomenal. They've got the big names, they got the big coach, the new stadium, all the fans. They've got all the hype of a new team coming into MLS. But as we all know, it takes a little bit more time to adapt to MLS than other games. Outside of a few players, their proposed starting 11 is a lot of new faces that haven't played in this league before. In preseason, they looked really good going forward against D3, D4, and the bench of Seattle Sounders. And even against them, they were giving up goals that were definitely questionable. I can see them being a lot like NYCFC. Really good on paper, really good attacking, questionable defending. I think they'll finish right around that last playoff spot. Now on to Columbus. Quite easily the most confusing team in the East. Going from runners-up in the East 2 seasons ago to second to last season, these guys are all over the place. But my take, they're going to be good again this year. Yeah, they lost their captain Parkhurst, they lost a really big piece of that defense, and they lost their goalkeeper. But Zach Steffens was really promising, and they've bolstered up that back line again. Raitala and Williams will be solid. Abu will complement Trapp and Johnny very nicely. Ola Kamara we know is a consistent goal scorer, and Justin Miram will be great providing from the wings again. The only real question is if Higuain can play like Higuain again. Once they lost Kai Kamara, you saw a real big drop off in what they could do, and he needs to be that center focal point again. And I don't know if he can do it, which is why I don't have them as high as, first or second again. Next up is DCU. Patrick Mullins, great signing. Got him to a long-term deal, great for the club. Getting Acosta back, huge. Birnbaum coming back, huge. And the best part, they have a lot of depth. The only real question with this team is who is going to be in their consistent starting 11. Having a few good super subs on the bench is great, but if you constantly rotate them and nobody can get into a rhythm, then you're going to have problems seeing constant production from those players. That, and out of the top 3 teams, this team does not have that type of talent. At 3, Red Bulls. Update from 2 minutes ago, I still miss Dax. But Sean Davis looks like he's really ready to step into that role and be a really good holding, shielding defensive mid. Verón looks like he's creating loads of chances up top, which is great to see. Aaron Long stepped in and was great in the back next to Colin. The only questions that we have to deal with are who's playing outside back, which, as we mentioned, were huge last year, and why Sasha Kljestan isn't on the ball. When Red Bull switched to 4-2-2-2, it played Kljestan much wider than he wants to be, and he's not on the ball as often, which means we're not getting production. If Kljestan isn't on the ball, BWP isn't scoring. And right now, Verón hasn't proved he's a good scorer either, so we really don't have that second option. And it'll be interesting to see if we have to change mid-season again back to 4-2-3-1, or if Verón becomes a main man and starts putting goals away. Side note, I think this is Verón's year. This is the year of Verón. Watch it, it's happening. Without question, Red Bulls will be another solid team this year in the East, but unless they can get Kljestan on the ball again, I'm already setting up for our semi-final exit in the playoffs this year. Second, and it kills me to say this, New York City. They replaced the trash can in goal with Sean Johnson, good move. Chanot looked like he fit in really well last year. Vieira brought in a few center defensive mids to sit in front of the back line because Pirlo can't defend for his life. Then again, you have Pirlo playing the ball into David Villa, Harrison, Shelton, Wallace. They've made good moves. Maxi Morales, they've made good moves. There's no question about it. As much as I hate to admit it, they look good. The only real thing I can see bringing them down is the fact that they've got a lot of new faces that may or may not transition well into this league. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes them, which is why I don't have them number 1. And up top, we've got Giovinco, Toronto. The man who was snubbed of an MVP title can do it all. 1v1 goals, assists, free kicks, you name it, he can do it. Put him up there with Altidore, defenses don't know how to handle it. We all know Michael Bradley's been better for Toronto than he has been for the USMNT, so he'll solidify that midfield again. Clint Irwin is solid, the back line's strong, they've got good wing backs. This team's got it all, really. Youth, experience, skill, and desire. Anything that a real team to win a championship needs, they have. And not only do I think they're going to win the East, I think they're going to do a double. They're going to win the Supporters' Shield, and they're going to win the MLS Cup this year. But that's it, guys. That's my predictions for the East this year. Stay tuned for tomorrow to see what I think about the West, and then in 35 weeks, I'll let you know how the playoffs are going to span out. But until then, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time. Be good.